I'm Dan Herlash, lecturer for the College of Business and Economics here at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. And this is Principles of Selling and Advanced Sales. And I have Stephanie Garcia with us today to tell us about Sherwin-Williams and help us prepare for the Sherwin-Williams team selling competition. Stephanie is the area recruiter for Sherwin-Williams, and she's been with Sherwin-Williams for 10 years. So Stephanie, welcome.
Hi.
So Stephanie, I'd like you to talk to the students, if you don't mind, just give them a little bit about how you ended up in this position and what your career has been like so far, and then we'll just.
Of course, Dan. So I started with Sherwin-Williams as a part-time sales associate when I was 19 years old. I did our internship program while I was completing my bachelor's degree twice, and then after graduation, I did our management sales training program. I was placed as an assistant manager at our Evergreen Park location on the south side of Chicago. After that, I opened a new territory as a sales representative, and then I opened a new store as a store manager. I was a training store manager for a few years before taking on my current role as recruiter. So I've done a little bit of everything, and every role I've had has kind of built on itself to get me to where I am right now.
Okay, great, Stephanie. So could you, start out and tell us a little bit about Sherwin-Williams, and I think you have a presentation for us. So if you like to pop that up and share your screen.
For sure.
Tell us, I'll let you go through and tell us, give us a little background about Sherwin-Williams, and then you can get into the product and how you're going to sell it, okay?
Of course. So Sherwin-Williams, well, today's agenda, quick little breakdown. We're going to review the Sherwin-Williams company. We're going to deep dive into our sales process, get to know the Emerald line of paint specifically, and then kind of review the role play scenario and what we've got going on for the competition. Who is Sherwin-Williams? Sherwin-Williams is the largest paint and coatings manufacturer in the world. We've been around since 1866. We have over 40,000 employees globally. We have over 4,000, I think we almost hit 5,000 stores across the world as well, and we hit record sales every year. We're broken down into 4 different divisions. So there's the biggest one, which is our Americas group. So that's all of the retail stores. When you want to paint your house, you go into the store and you buy the paint from us. So the Americas group is the largest division. We also have our consumers brand group, which is all of our subsidiaries. So any of the businesses that we own or the different products that we manufacture that are sold out of Menards, Lowe's, independent retailers, that kind of thing. We also have our performance coatings group, which is right here. And so that's all of our automotive finishes, coil coatings, protective and marine. And we sell to various shops and large manufacturing plants. So that's another branch. And then we have our global supply chain, which includes our research and development lab, our manufacturing plants, and our distribution centers. So, we are very integrated as to the manufacturing, shipping, and selling of all of our own products. So this is just kind of a quick breakdown of the 4 different divisions. We also have a breakdown of our career path. So I talked a little bit about my career path. I started sort of here as a sales associate intern, did the management sales training program, was an assistant manager, and then from here you can kind of jump around. I went the sales rep role first and then became a store manager. I kind of ended up over here on more of the HR side of things, but as you can see, you can move up to large volume territories and eventually become a district manager, vice president of sales, or even president and general manager of one of our divisions. So our key initiatives really break down into pre-call planning. You can see this is a quick snapshot of our sales process, but everything leads back to pre-call planning. We always want to have our reps and managers prepared for the call as best as possible. Our 7-step sales process is kind of a big circle.
If I can just interrupt something real quick, just to make it clear for some of this, we have some newer students that aren't that familiar with Sherwin-Williams. You have, with your stores, you have people come in, it's B2C, and that's what most of them are probably familiar with. They see that little, that Sherwin-Williams store, and maybe their parents go in and buy some paint, or they bought some paint or some brushes, that kind of thing. But what I want them to really understand is that a big portion of your business is B2B. And your stores are really kind of distribution centers for the businesses, the painting contractors that use your product. So this sales process is, while it's the same somewhat for everybody, is what we're talking about for this B2B, which will be our role play for the competition. So I just wanted to interject that. So go right ahead.
Of course, thank you. Yeah, as Dan said, the majority of our business does come from professional contractors. And so this sort of process is the one we use when dealing with our professional contractors. We always want to work on building that relationship, getting to know what is important to your customer, what's important to their business, and even building a personal relationship. When I was a rep and a manager, I built relationships with customers, and I was invited to holiday parties and birthday parties. You definitely want to work on identifying their needs and qualifying where they are in the buying process. We can present the proposal, which is kind of what we're going to be working on for this presentation. You want to deal with any sort of objections they might have and gather feedback from them. We want to close the sale and gain the commitment moving forward, and then always, again, work on follow-up and continuing to build that relationship. But at the end of the day, all of these things come back to pre-call planning. Now, I will also share our pre-call planner. So you should have a copy of this. And you know, these are filled out before any call by either our sales reps or our store managers. So you always want to fill it out with what type of account. So, you know, are they one of our biggest customers? And, you know, we see them every day of the week. Are they an opportunity that we're trying to get more buying with us? Are they new from this year or last year, or one of our existing customers? Type in their name and any individuals. So it could be Nick's Painting and the individual is Nick Corvino. The current state. So what's the customer background? What's the business environment? What are the needs or challenges that they're coming across? So we definitely want to have like an idea of where they're at now. What's the relationship building piece? How does this customer communicate? And how can you adapt your style to make them more comfortable? You know, maybe they're a storyteller and they really like to talk fast paced, or maybe they're straight and to the point and you don't want to, you know, dilly dally at all. So you definitely want to work on adapting how you speak to kind of make them more comfortable. We also want to come up with some objectives for the call. So what do you want to accomplish to move the sale forward? You have the best case scenario. They're going to switch over and buy all emerald from you. But you also want to come up with a worst case scenario. A lot of times that relationship building piece ends up being the worst case scenario. Like, at least I learned he has 3 painters and he likes to watch the Cubs. Who knows? And then that way you learn something new about them that you can use moving forward. The call strategy, what's your plan to accomplish your results? You're going to ask open-ended discovery questions. You're going to have, you know, the sell sheets in your back pocket so you can present it to them. You want to come up with kind of a quick opener. You don't want to just like jump right into business right away. So how are you going to transition the talk from what's going on in the world, or did you see the game last night, whatever the case may be, into the business discussion? You want to figure out the information you're missing and how you're going to use your line of inquiry to understand it. You want to figure out what recommendations you're going to make and what is the value to the customer. So don't just have a list of qualities that the product carries, but understand why this specific quality is important to the customer. Deal with any sort of likely objections. If you can come up with what are some things that they might say ahead of time, then you can better come up with a rebuttal. And then always want to make sure to think about what's next and when. So if you want to try to schedule a follow-up call, if you want to try to have them demo a product or something like that, always have an idea of what your next step is going to be.
Oh, there we go. Stephanie, I was just going to say that your screen was blank there for just a little bit, but that's okay. We're good. I think you were showing the that document. So I just want to tell the students, if we're not going to start over because Stephanie's doing a great job. I'm not going to make her do this twice, and she's got a lot more to tell you. But in case it didn't show on your screen on the recording, we have posted that document into Canvas in the modules. So it's there for you to also take a look at. Okay, good explanation, Stephanie, and hopefully they can see it. But if not, it's there for them. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Um, so now getting into the skills of selling. As we talked about on the pre-call planner, you always want to work on building relationships, asking questions, actively listening, and resolving objections. So building relationships, have that personal introduction, that personal greeting, and then figure out a way to transition it into business. There are some customers who are straight to the point and they don't want to deal with small talk, but there are others that you might want to ask, hey, how was your weekend? Did you do anything fun? And then that kind of helps to build that relationship and build that trust. At the end of the day, friends buy from friends. And so if the more trust you can build with a customer, the better off you will be moving forward.
Stephanie, I'm sorry I got this. That happens every time I come in, but I've been put on silent so that you don't hear any other background noises that may happen. But that's great that you bring it up. And the reason that I came in is because we have two different groups. We have beginners and we have advanced. So for the role play, the beginners, we're going to make it the role play pretty straightforward. For the advanced, though, one of the things that you've learned about is dealing with different personality styles and traits and different customers. So one of the things that's going to happen in your role play is you're going to find that maybe that customer isn't as talkative, or maybe they're too talkative. Whatever the situation is, or their personality, or what they care about. These are going to be some more advanced things that, as an advanced sales team, you're going to have to figure out. So I just want to put that in there. But we'll keep it pretty straightforward for the rest of you. That's great information. So I'll let you continue.
Thank you. So now asking questions is probably the hardest part to navigate during a sales call. You want to get more information and you want to verify what you've already heard, but most importantly, you want to understand the needs of the customer and the value that you can bring to them. The two main types of questions that you're going to use are open-ended and closed-ended questions. Closed-ended questions are best used when you're confirming details and trying to elicit specific information. They can be used early on to establish credibility. So you can ask, who is your current supplier? Or is that sprayed on? How many guys do you have working for you on your crew? Closed-ended questions can typically be answered with one or two words. So typically yes or no answers, or something that can be answered very easily. Open-ended questions are much more discovery-based. So they begin with what or how, and they focus on the customer's thinking to give you the most information. What role do you expect a supplier to play in your business? How does that affect your business? These questions are a lot harder to answer with one or two words. So this really gets the customer talking and gets them opening up to you a little bit. And then the really high discovery questions are open directives. So anything that starts with tell me more about, or please elaborate on, or please describe. These, ask the question, tell me more about what you like from Benjamin Moore, and then just let them talk. And so this will kind of prompt the prospect to talk about a certain point. A piece of advice that I will give, because I know I made this mistake when I was a rep, and I've seen other reps newer to the role or students during competitions like this. If you're going to ask a question, try not to then list answers after the fact. I know that it's a tough kind of situation to navigate where you're dealing with the silence a little bit, but tell me about your business. Stop talking. Because if you start to say, do you do interior? Do you do exterior? Do you do residential? Do you do commercial? Then you're almost answering it for them. And so that's, it can be a nervous tick that I definitely know that I had, but just a sort of piece of advice from the other side of things. Try your best to just ask the question and then let the customer do most of the talking. Playbacks confirm details that you've already heard, and they show that you're really listening. So you can, as the customer is talking, and you can kind of interject like, okay, so if I understand you correctly, this is what you're saying. Or, holy smokes, you got 10 guys working for you. And that just proves that you're listening and not just thinking about what you're going to say next. And then you can, pull back those notes later on in the conversation, and you can say, from what you said earlier, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then, process the value that you can bring to this situation or whatever need they might have expressed. A Effective listening. You definitely want to listen with a purpose. And the purpose is understanding the customer. You want to check your understanding with them so you can throw in those playbacks and confirming questions. And you want to avoid interrupting the speaker. As Dan said, sometimes people are talkers and you got to reel them in a little bit. But a lot of times if you get them talking, write down as many notes as you can and learn everything from that interaction. And definitely let the customer know that you're listening. A head nod or or smile, something like that, just to make sure that they understand that you're listening and you're taking in all of the information that they're giving you.
And the only exception I'm going to just throw in there is for a sales competition. You want to get your information, you want to listen. In the real world, we do exactly what Stephanie is saying. I've seen poor students where a talker went on for 9 out of 20 minutes, and and at that case, for a sales competition where you have to move on, you're running out of time. Just you can say something as simple as, I hate to interrupt, but I know you said we only have these few minutes, so I have a few more questions I'd like to ask if you don't mind, and that usually will derail them and get you back on track. But again, that shouldn't be a problem. We're hoping in the sales competition. So go ahead, Stephanie.
Now, resolving objections can be the hardest part when you're having any sort of sales call. Definitely try to not get upset and don't take it personally. Stay cool and remember the process to resolve the objection. You always want to ensure that you understand the value or the need of the customer. So that's also why in that pre-call planner, we went over trying to think of objections so you can sort of expect what's coming. Common objections: the price is too high, or I'm already happy where I'm buying, or I'm too busy right now, I don't have time. Always have some rebuttal in your head of like, okay, I understand you're busy. We can check back next week at this time, whatever the case, or something to that effect. So that way you don't just lose all of the progress that you've already made. So getting into the product knowledge piece a little bit, you should have in your documents the Emerald sell sheet. So you can see here, Emerald is our top of the line interior product that we carry. It's mainly used for residential projects. So Emerald interior residential, it comes in 4 different sheens. So there's flat, which has no shine whatsoever, matte, which is a step up from that, satin eggshell, which is sort of the most popular one, and then semi-gloss, which is going to be the most shiny. It does come with a lifetime warranty. It is a paint and primer in one with advanced stain blocking technology. So darker colors are going to give you really great hide. You're going to be able to, block any sort of water stains or, grease stains, that kind of thing. It has really good coverage, good durability and washability, exceptional scrub, stain, and water spotting resistance. Antimicrobial agents, so for bathrooms or basements, anywhere where moisture might be a problem. It has very low VOC. So VOCs are volatile organic compounds. It's the bad stuff in paint. So it's what gives it the bad smell. It's what makes it bad for the environment. Most of our products have been formulated to meet low VOC regulations. Emerald is one of the most stringent VOC regulated products. It creates a smooth and uniform appearance. So we like to say that that's self-leveling. So it'll smooth out and it's less likely to show brush or roller marks, give you a really nice smooth finish. And it's available in all of our colors in all 4 sheens. So you can go from the brightest and most vibrant whites to the darkest and deepest blues and greens and reds. And you're still going to get that exceptional coverage, that exceptional washability. So Emerald is definitely our highest quality product that we carry. Okay, and I guess this is where we would open any questions. Dan, do you have any thing that you might want me to touch on more?
Yeah, if you could talk a little bit about how you actually go about calling on people, what the salesperson does, and a little bit about what paint contractors are first. Just tell us a little bit about that. I used to work for a paint contractor. Some of you, I know we have a couple in class that have been college pro painters or college works, some of those kind of things, running their own little painting business. So I know they're familiar with Sherwin-Williams, but most of them are not.
Sure.
If you could just give us a little background on that real quick, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, so with Sherwin-Williams, our calls tend to be more warm calls. So it's not really cold calling where you just have a name and a phone number and you don't know anything else. Most of the time, these people have used our products in the past, or have at least heard of, our company in the past. So we have typically a receipt of theirs if they've bought something, or we can find information on their company online a lot of the time. So our calls tend to be a bit warm in nature because we at least have some background information. And really, it's all about understanding what's important to them. If you know that you're trying to sell somebody Emerald, ask as many questions as you can about what do you use now? What do you like about it? What do you wish you could change about it? And then think about the different values that Emerald has with it. So it has really good coverage for darker colors. So if the customer is saying, oh, sometimes we have to do multiple coats on dark accent walls and that takes up extra time. Okay, you know that Emerald has good coverage, so you can think about that. The woman's pregnant and she doesn't want any sort of harsh paint smell. Okay, Emerald has low VOC, so it's not going to have as harsh of a paint smell. A lot of times we want our value to mirror a need that they have expressed. So I try very hard not to just come out saying, hey, it's this, 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 and this. Instead, ask what's important to them and then have the value that you bring reflect what they expressed as a need. Our contractors a lot of the time can be very set in their ways. And so asking the right questions about what their goals are, what they want to achieve, getting to know their business and not just trying to sell them something tends to build that trust and build that relationship a bit more. And so it makes you more credible when you're able to provide a value for a need that they have expressed.
Okay, great. So, do your salespeople actually go out and visit with the contractors a lot, or try and get a hold of them, stop on job sites? What do they do?
Yeah, so a lot of the time our sales reps and store managers will do job site visits. So whether it's Joe's painting, who's painting a house down the street, and we go visit the house and see the project itself, or it could be an apartment complex or a big commercial warehouse, something like that. All of our outside sales reps, that's what they do, is they conduct job site visits. Our store managers get out into the field a few days a week as well. And that's really the best way for us to get a true idea of the projects they're working on, in case we need to know about the special prep work or a certain product recommendation. That's the best way for us to get a good look at what the project actually is.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I know you guys are very much problem solvers. And I don't know if a lot of the students realize it, but first of all, I'm going to ask the students. I just want you to think for a second. Can you define, what is paint? Well, what's its number one purpose? And I know Stephanie knows. So I'll let you answer that. What's the number one purpose of paint and coatings?
A lot of the time it has to do with aesthetics, but we make paint and coatings for almost anything. So if you want to give your garage floor a new, look that's very durable and going to withstand, everyday life, we've got a paint for that. If you want to just revamp your living room to make it more aesthetically appealing, we've got a paint for that. If you're, like I said earlier, if you've got like a school or something that you're concerned with durability and washability, but also concerned with the environmental aspects, we've got a paint for that.
Yeah. So it has a lot of purposes, and it's aesthetic, it's protection. It's a garage floor, it's keeping the hull of a ship from rusting, or a paint from a bridge from rusting out and collapsing, like the Golden. You guys paint the Golden Gate Bridge, right?
We did, yeah.
Yeah. So or provide the paint, I should say. But anyway, paint is used everywhere, and coatings are used everywhere, and there's all kinds of coatings. So we're just really, in this case, in this scenario, we're going to be dealing with residential. But if you look around you, almost every single thing around you, from your automobile, and you think about that, an automobile going 70 miles an hour down the road, and salt and debris and stuff hitting it, and I put it through the car wash and it looks great. for many, many years. I mean, it's just, it's amazing what these coatings do and the science that goes behind it. So everything is painted. It really is. So in this case, calling on these contractors, um, they have crews out there. Maybe 2, 3, 4 people in the crew, something like that. It just depends upon the job and so on. And they send people out to paint. In this scenario, it's going to be somebody that's actually doing outside and interior painting in a residence. I did ask your people, Stephanie, yesterday when I talked to them about this COVID situation, and so you're still providing curbside pickup for painters. A lot of the paint contractors, I flip houses, and so I'm a good customer of Sherwin-Williams, and I go in the morning, and when I get there in the morning to pick up paint, all the contractors are there getting all their paint for the day and their materials and heading out. And a lot of times it's ordered before, and they're being all mixed. So it isn't. Yeah, during the day there's people that come in there, consumers, but if you go in there in the morning, it's a lot of contractors coming in. And now they still have curbside because these contractors are essential. They're part of construction. They need to have it. And you also do delivery to job sites. Okay. And that's one of the big things that Sherwin-Williams has as well. Could you tell us specifically what are some of the big advantages that with this scenario? And I'll back up a second. The scenario, and do you want to go through the scenario?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, let's do that. And this is selling to a paint contractor. So I'll let Stephanie go through and talk a little bit what some of the advantages of Emerald are and how we can help this paint contractor out.
Yeah.
So she can get up.
So if, depending on the needs of the customer, and this is where you would use those open-ended questions, high discovery questions to learn more about their business, what's important to them. In this scenario, you are playing either a store manager or a sales representative. So you're working together as a team to, uncover what is important to this customer and how you can bring that value of the Emerald line of paint to their business. So let me see. So we've got info on the Emerald line of paint. And then, so common painter problems. If the customer doesn't like the color, then you're gonna have to repaint it, and you'll typically lose money if you have to do it twice. So this throws off your schedule, and it could lead to some unhappy customers. A lot of times, higher quality products will give you a better looking finish, and that could lead to more referrals, that could lead to happier customers. And so that's one of the selling points of it.
And I think in this scenario, we put that this particular painter relies about 80-90% of his business comes through referrals. So, so that's important, really important.
Yeah. So if most of your business is coming from referrals and word of mouth, you want the best paint on the market to give you that word of mouth, those repeat customers. A lot of times, if you have to do extra coats of paint that either weren't in the bid or unexpectedly came up, that's going to cost you time and money. So the paint and primer in one aspect is going to help with coverage. And then
something in here because we're dealing with students that have a variety of business acumen so far. They're learning to be professional business people and learning all about it. So just to interject so that they understand this a little bit better. When you bid a job as a contractor, there's two different, and I actually used to be a paint contractor a little bit. So it's a long story, but anyway, when you bid a job, you either just bid the job, you figure out how much paint it's going to take, how many coats, how much time it's going to take you and your people, how much you can cover in an hour and all that kind of thing. And then you build your profits on top of it. So you look at the cost of the paint and the labor and everything else. And you have a labor rate that's loaded in based on all your overhead and everything else. Or you quote time and material.
Yeah.
And time and material is, this is how much we're going to charge you an hour, and this is how much we're going to charge, and you're going to have to pay for all the material you use. A lot of those bids and quotes are by the job. And you come in and for $5,000, we're going to paint the inside of your house here, or we're going to do this work on the outside. And So to get to what Stephanie was saying is all of a sudden things don't cover, they're not covering well. When you're covering dark paints with lighter paints, that takes a lot of coats. Um, uh, Things aren't primed. You have to prime it first and then cover it. Uh, those are things that cost them a lot of money. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to get everybody up to speed on how jobs in the contractor world get bid.
I thank you. I appreciate that. And then kind of a last little bit, with everything changing in the market, a lot of times people are really concerned with sustainability or the impact on the environment. So keeping your business up to date with the highest quality and most regulated products can be of a benefit as well. So that's when you can touch on the low VOC and the different benefits that way. Now, kind of getting into the prospect of Nick, you've gotten to know his business a little bit, but you definitely want to ask the questions to get to know how long they've been in business, or what's important to them. What products do you use currently? What do you like about who you shop with right now? So if you don't know who their current supplier is, just straight up ask. You can be like, hey, so tell me about where you buy your paint from now. And then they'll probably talk about Benjamin Moore or PPG or whatever other paint company they might buy from. And then write down, okay, what do you like about working with that company? But also write down, what do you dislike about working with that company? Or is there something you could change? And then think about the different benefits that Sherwin brings to the table so that you can kind of fill in those gaps a little bit. So you'll want to uncover overall opinion of the SW products that they've used, who the current supplier is and why he likes using them, the needs for paint and overall performance of the product, any needs that aren't currently being met by his supplier, and then what knowledge they have of SW to begin with. So you need to fill in the gaps of the knowledge of SW paint benefits. You can talk about pricing. So, Emerald, as the highest quality product we carry, does come with a bit of a higher price tag. So that should be an objection that you prepare for, is understanding, why that product is worth the X amount of dollars per gallon that we ask for that.
And a point I'll make too is the paint contractor, and it is in the scenario for you, but with a paint contractor, if I'm charging if I'm charging $5,000 for a job, and maybe my cost is 3,000. Well, my margin is probably not quite that high, but let's say, just for sake of discussion, it's $3,000. 80% of that $3,000 is probably going to be materials. Okay. I'm sorry, going to be labor. I misspoke. It's going to be labor. So materials aren't going to be all that high. And I think in this scenario, we put the average job, you found out the average job is like 20 gallons a house. That's average. It's something, and he has in there how many jobs they can do a week and that kind of thing. So, they'll concentrate on the price per gallon, but really the concentration, while that's important, the concentration will be how much paint you're using. And because they can save quite a bit of paint. They don't have to do those extra coats. It covers better. It goes on faster. They can paint about 20% faster with it. Okay, and then on top of it, so the big thing on that is going to be the labor savings. Okay, that costs a whole lot more. I don't even know what the average labor cost would be, and I don't think we really need to know for this, but if you just think about that, it's 80% versus 20%. That's a little bit extra on the paint will save a lot of labor.
For sure. And then, this goes back to our pre-call planning a bit. You want to figure out what your objectives are. So primary objective, have Nick agree to try Emerald on an upcoming project and have you on site for that. We've noticed on our end with real life situations that having the rep or the manager on site while the customer is trying the new product is the best way for us to deal with any sort of issues that might come up. Am I using the wrong roller? Am I, not stirring it enough? Whatever the case might be. But so the primary objective is to get Nick to try the product, but also have you there with him while he's doing it. Secondary is have him try the product, but unfortunately, you're not allowed on the job site. And then you'll have a follow-up meeting to discuss what he liked, what he didn't like, and that, moving forward. And then the worst case, as we talked about earlier, is have Nick agree to follow up with you at a later date.
And I'll just add, we have slightly different, and we don't have to go through them here, but there's a different objective for the beginner. That's the students that are in principles of selling. And then the advanced students who are the ones, excuse me, sorry, I have a frog in my throat. The advanced students that are taking advanced class, and we'll have some other students that will be doing this as well that are not taking advanced but have already completed it, or at least have completed principles of selling in the past. You have a little bit more lofty goals than the people that are in the beginner class, okay? And you'll be judged according to that. I'll also say that in the presentation, because it's virtual, be prepared to do a presentation. For the advanced class, you're going to have to define the numbers. So you're going to have to cost justify. Principle of selling, you're going to basically sell this on the concept of the basic concept that goes on faster, better, covers better, all the different things that we talked about. With advanced, you're going to have to take into account the money, because the real world is, it's nice to talk about all these things, but the story talks, and the money makes it walk. You really have to verify and show that the money is. People buy based on emotion, but they have to justify it with logic. And in the business world, if it's not justified, it's not happening. Okay, in most cases. So. Advanced sales have a nice presentation to sell your product. The same thing with the principals, have a presentation to show them how you can address their needs and what they were talking about. You don't need to talk about things that aren't important to them. Okay, make that presentation very specific to their needs, and then close based on what your scenario says that you need to try. And they're in rank order. So the better you do, the better the score will be on how you close, okay? But the buyer's not going to let you close on something that you don't earn. So keep that in mind. It'll be like the real world, okay? So be prepared to share your screen and do that PowerPoint. Okay? Well, Stephanie, anything else to add?
I don't think so. I think that covered most of what I had. Just make sure that you're asking as many questions as you can to uncover as much info as you can. Everybody with Sherwin-Williams started where you guys are, learning about sales process, learning how to close a sale. So, just understand that everybody has to start somewhere.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Stephanie. I really, really appreciate it. And appreciate having you here doing this. And now I have to figure out how to stop recording. But thanks a lot. And all this is, and students, all this is published on the website for you, and on Canvas, and you'll have it up there for you to take a look at. Okay. Thank you very much, Stephanie. Appreciate it. And looking forward to a great competition.
Thanks, Dan.
Now, oh, here we go. Now it came up. I can find it. All right. Thanks, everyone. All right. So I hit stop.